8:17 is the time. Now, well, Mother's Day is one of the most difficult days of the year for stepmoms. Our relationship expert, Dr. Dar, is here this morning for a handling on how to deal with the holiday during this time. And it can be kind of hard to navigate if you're a child and you have a mom and a stepmom. You're not really sure how to do it sometimes.
It is challenging. I just want to note that there's over 14 million stepmoms in our country alone. And this week is a very depressing time for them because they're noticing all the messages. You know, Hallmark has made us lazy. We don't write our own cards anymore. And it's really difficult for the child as well because they're torn. You know, they want to be with their mom and yet they also want to recognize their stepmother.
Yeah, so you have a few tips on how we can help recognize our stepmoms out there.
I do. One of the things that would be really, really cool, and you know me with my ideal utopia relationship world, is to get the stepmom and the mom together so that you can have a meal together with them, but also celebrate them individually. When you can get both the key women in your life to get along, at least on that one day or during that 1 week, it can be very powerful for the family dynamics as a whole.
And if you can do that, that's great, but I'm sure there's some people that are sitting at home going, Dr. Dar, you're crazy. You are crazy. There's no way that's going to happen. You know, it can be hard for a kid to be in that position, you know, to ask them both to be in the same room. How do you sort of go about doing that, and what are the other options?
I would say that the best way to do it is, you know, we're involved in a family together. I know we don't get along, but can we just go have a half-hour coffee together and celebrate each other? And you know, you're both very different. I know we have arguments, but this is really important to me and the family. If you don't do that, then you're setting yourself up for a conflict, you know, for the rest of your lives together. Other ways to handle it is to have conversations with your mom stating that I need to recognize my stepmom, regardless of, you know, whether there's conflict or not. They are in my life, and not recognizing them is not healthy. So I think that if you were to schedule another day to spend dinner or whatever, because you know we're going to be aligned with our biological mom, and we're going to want to spend that day with them. I think it's really just most important to recognize your stepmother rather than not recognizing them at all.
درود بر شما بینندگان گرامی به برنامه مادر و کودک خوش آمدید. روز مادر برای خیلی از شماها بسیار خوشایند و دلانگیز به قول معروف بود و برای خیلی از شما مادرها به قول اینجایا step moms و blended families چالشی بود که شاید بخشیش چالش پرتنش بود، پر از استرس بود و یا بخشیش برای بعضی از شما پر از صلح‌جویی و صلح‌خویی بود. در هر صورت همونطور که اشاره کردن در کشوری که زندگی می‌کنیم و در اصل در تمام دنیا امروزه بیش از نیمی از ازدواج‌ها منجر به طلاق میشه و این به این معناست که بالاخره خانواده‌ها یا دارای به اصطلاح موقعیت‌هایی میشن که میبایست سازگاری پیدا بکنن در این ایام، چه Mother's Day، Father's Day، روز مادر، روز پدر، و مادر و پدرانی که عاقل هستند و هوشیار هستند میدانند که چگونه این دوران رو با کودکانشون، با فرزندانشون بگذرونن، برنامه ریزی کنن که بیشترین صلح‌جویی و صلح‌خویی در خانواده ها پرورش پیدا بکنه. امروز میهمان گرامی برنامه من کسی نیست به غیر از به اصطلاح خانم جولی هرمن. ایشون سالیانی هست که در این موضوع، در این راه سولو پرنتینگ و به اصطلاح اون پیس لرنینگی که وارد این ماجرا میشه فعالیت کردن. Founder, CEO, Editor-in-Chief, JulyHerman, welcome to MomTalk.
Thank you. So happy to be here again.
It's a pleasure to have you again.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
I have a sticker for you.
Oh, thank you.
It says very loved mommy, and I know you are.
Joey.
And I just want to thank you for being a commitment to peace and to love for our children.
Thank you.
So happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank
you. This is very special. We're here today to not only talk about the bliss and the joy and the peace of Mother's Day and celebrating Mother's Day, but also to recognize challenging moments for this holiday and Father's Day coming up. Mm-hmm. So give us your pearls. We're here to listen and learn. Our audience I know many contact us and they want to learn more about how to improve their co-parenting skills and solo parenting skills and how to be better moms and dads.
That's a great question. It is a time of year where people are thinking about their parenting, their parents, and families look very different than they used to look.
Yeah.
We have 40%, in this country, we have 40% of marriages that end in divorce. Mm-hmm. So 50%, so between 40 and 50%. Mm-hmm. Between 30 and 40% of those families have children. Right. So children go through loss. And it's confusing to know where mom is, whose weekend it is, stepmom. You have very different messages. But what we need to do as parents in non-traditional environments and non-traditional families is to put our children first. Instead of having conflict on a day when there should be fun, put that aside. Do your best to put it aside and keep your side of the street clean. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Rise above the conflict, put your children first. So if it's Mother's Day and there's a stepmom in the picture, maybe your child can write a little card for stepmom and put it in the mail. That's not painful. Mm-hmm. That would make her feel good, and it acknowledges the fact that there's another influence, another parental influence in your child's life. Might not be someone that you want to spend a lot of time with, might be, maybe eventually, but we need to look at the long-term effects of our parenting on our children. Mm-hmm. Father's Day, the same thing. Even if you're in a high conflict situation where you don't spend a lot of time mm-hmm. with your ex or someone that you used to be a co-parent with, it's really important to have your child be able to acknowledge that parent or step-parent, because step-parents are people too. And the reality is we live in blended families in this country and in the world. It's the shape of the new family.
Right. So. Yeah, our modern families, absolutely. Every other family is blended in some ways, whether it's because of loss, divorce, whether some families come together because of sexual orientation, because of, it's just, we're now seeing new forms of families.
That's right.
That as a community, if we don't have tools or ways to recognize, to embrace, and to honor different styles, that we will all suffer eventually.
Yes.
Because our children are growing together. Mm-hmm. Our children are learning from each other. And so when parents come into my office and some are sad about not being able to merge their families, not being able to blend their families, not being able to honor moms and stepmoms and grandmothers, by the way, that's a big hot topic in our community, because oftentimes the sons are very deeply connected emotionally to their moms. Mm-hmm. And so when a holiday like this comes up, they want to honor their moms first. Mm-hmm. And the wives feel left out and they feel that they're not being honored. So that's another issue or hot topic. Mm-hmm. So I like your approach that when we're dealing or facing these life events, mm-hmm. Transitional points or holidays, to put those strong feelings, negative feelings especially, aside for a moment. Park it on the side, mm-hmm. and to focus on how we can best help our children or youth or young adults go through these experiences with a little bit more peace learning involved. And it challenges us as parents, I think, as members of the community, to lead with our hearts and not so much with our legalistic ways or mm-hmm. who's right and who's wrong.
I agree. And I think it's an opportunity for us to model what it is to be an adult. Being an adult sometimes means making a sacrifice for your children. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that means putting aside your emotions and seeing the big picture 20 years down the road, so that your child's not looking back and saying, oh, I dread Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. Oh, I dread Father's Day. Take a little time to cultivate peace in your family mm-hmm. for those days, but with the idea that in the long run, this is how you want your life to look for your family. Mm-hmm. It's not always possible. We don't always have a co-parent who's going to be on the same page as us, as we are. And some of the lessons that I see parents learning, and at Solo Parent Magazine, we have a lot of resources for people dealing with separation and loss and grieving. And one of the things that we can look at is the choices that we have as adults, what we choose to do with our children. And compartmentalization can be a negative thing, but I think it can also be a positive thing insofar as we don't always need to react to something right away. We can say, okay, this is a moment I'm going to take some time later to take care of these feelings that I have, but right now my child has needs, wants to have contact with mom or dad, and I want to facilitate that so that they have a sense of togetherness and connection.
What a great point. I think when we come together, whether we're co-parenting or in relationships, interpersonal relationships, and we're able to regulate and self-regulate and also help our children regulate their emotions, especially those negative feelings. اون اوقاتی که بچه هامون یا خودمون با ترس روبرو هستیم، با خشم روبرو هستیم، با دل رنجی روبرو هستیم، اون اوقات مهم هست که ما میبایست یک نفس عمیق بگیریم و به قول جولی باید روی اون چیزی که بیشتر قراره در دراز مدت، در طولانی مدت برای خانواده یا کودک ما یا اون خانواده کودک ما، فرزند ما، صلح و صلح جویی بیاره، اون به اصطلاح cultivation of peace. این خیلی مهمه و در به اصطلاح کامیونیتی هایی که توجهشون، در جوامعی که توجهشون رو این هستش، آگاهی، ارتقاء آگاهی و چگونه ما می توانیم در این اوقات حساس عواطف منفی رو برای خودمان و دیگران در خانواده متعادل و به اصطلاح رگولیت بکنیم، یک جایی پیدا بکنیم که به قول معروف از کوره در نمیریم. In certain cultures there's a tendency to react and to be more temperamental. So I think sometimes Persians can get like that, or Middle Easterns. So it's a great tip that you really want to take a deep breath. You want to regulate and calm yourself down and to say to yourself that, you know, in order for the next generation, for my children to have a more peaceful life, a healthier life, I'm going to sacrifice or regulate or take a step, act more like an adult, be more mature. And if one is unable to do that, there's help. You know, there are ways to learn how to do this. Mindfulness is a great way to practice this, to how to self-regulate. Therapy, psychotherapy helps very well. There's social skills classes and groups where you can go with other parents who are probably in similar situations and learn coping skills. You know, what do they do that helps them? So tell us about Solo Parent Magazine and how it all started. If a parent is watching now and they go onto your website and they want to become involved in your community, guide us through the website and how they can use it.
I'd love to. This website was born out of necessity, in my opinion. I didn't expect to be having the journey as a single parent. And when I looked on the internet, I didn't really see anything that I felt spoke to me. And I wanted to create a community for not only moms, because there are lots of mom blogs and websites for single moms, but I felt that dads needed to have some attention to, because they're 50% of that demographic of parents who are no longer with a spouse. Solo parents, for us, the term solo parent includes people who are divorced, people who are separated, people who are widowed, even, you know, military families, or people who have a spouse who's working a lot, and parents who have to parent by themselves without someone else. We have advice, resources, and community on our website that can help people decide whether they find, you know, during a challenging time, things that they can find to help enrich their lives and their ability to be a parent. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was not just the fact that we are parents, but we're also human beings. So we really need to start with us. And one of the things we have on our website, we have a lot of self-care, ideas about how to best take care of number one. Because if we're not functioning as adults and as people, then we can't be great parents. So there are a lot of articles about taking care of ourselves, taking care of ourselves in a new situation as a single parent. I'm seeing an article that just came up about buying a car as a single mom. So tips about that. I mean, how would you do that if you had been married before? You'd probably go with your husband. And if you're a single parent and you need to take care of certain things, there are different ways that we parent when we're alone. So it's not just parenting, but it's also moving through life and dealing with loss and grief and discovering ourselves even when we are at a loss. The other side of this coin are the blended families and moving into remarriage, finding a new partner, what that looks like for your family, for yourself. Children are very sensitive to the idea of mom or dad dating someone new. So there are a lot of do's and don'ts about that, around that. And we have a lot of tips and advice about what to do, what not to do. Obviously, no one can tell you how to live your life, and no one should. But the idea is that there are things that parents who've gone through this have experience and experts can talk about the best ways to approach a new family situation.
What I've noticed when parents take time to allow for the grief and the grieving process to take place and really pay attention, are attuned to their child's readiness, that works really well. I see those transitions are made well, and at the end more peace is experienced, as opposed to when children are rushed, or even parents are rushed because they're not processing or not staying being mindful with their own sense of self.
Absolutely. Grief is important. It's important to acknowledge. It doesn't have to overwhelm us, but sometimes it does. And our children experience grief as well. And there are articles actually on the website about children's grief, symptoms of grief, how to allow for grief, different ideas about during holidays in particular. We're talking about Mother's Day and Father's Day, but you also have other family holidays, and all of a sudden your family looks different. How to create an environment where a child can experience grief and loss and not be, made to feel upset about that, more upset than they feel. It's natural for them. And when grief runs its course, then we get to experience a new part of life. And I think acceptance is a really big part of this. So as you know, there are different stages of grief, but in order to come to acceptance, you really have to acknowledge that something is the way it is, come out of denial, and then move towards acceptance. And emotions are real, and they're very big. So it's important to check in with mental health professionals about stages of grief for your children, what's healthy for children, when they're exhibiting signs of things really going off kilter, and getting help for kids and for ourselves when we need it. And counseling, family counseling, is also a wonderful thing. If you have a new partner, for example, that's not necessarily a bad idea to have a safe place for 3 people to come together, or 4 people, depending on the size of your family.
And it's really refreshing that the millennial parents, the new parents, the modern families, are looking at this early prevention, early intervention model very seriously. So I've just seen a shift of parents coming in now because they want to prevent certain hardship or certain crisis or certain, even not even for prevention, but also for cultivation of, for example, peace and confidence. And so the positive aspects of growth. So they look at it more as just a regular checkup, just like we go and get our teeth checked, or we go in for our annual exam. So we go in nowadays with the family and family members to check on mental health and mental health status, and how every family member is thriving and developing and transitioning and moving through these life cycles.
And what's important to remember is that a lot of these parents who are having kids of their own have gone through this already.
Yes.
So some of them were raised in high conflict situations, and they know what that's like. And that's some of the voice that I like to acknowledge in the magazine, that there are parents who are out there who say, don't do this with your kids, because this is what happened to me. I was put in the middle. And that is the biggest sort of do not do this message that we have. Don't put your kids in the middle. Don't talk ill about mom or dad. Don't. You know, that's one of the things that confuses a child, because they are a product of both parents, regardless of how you feel. Talk that out with a friend. Talk that out with a professional. You know, go out with your girlfriends, or go out, you know, with whomever, and have those, dish it. You know, but don't put your child in the middle of that.
And I know the legal system, the courthouses in the Los Angeles County legal system, they're taking it very seriously.
Very seriously. There are, even when you're going through the process, there are videos about mediation and the importance of mediation and not putting your child in the middle. You know, it's really imperative to a child's well-being to know that they are okay. It is not their fault. Obviously, they're children. Clearly, it's not their fault. But parents don't always know, especially when you're going through that kind of crisis or trauma, and especially in a culture where it's not acceptable to be a single parent. I was raised by, my parents, thank goodness, have been married for 50 years this year. Divorce was not common in my family. So I didn't know what to do. I don't have these role models. So I was looking out there to see how people were able to manage this transition gracefully. And the message that I got is, be true to yourself, take care of yourself, take care of your child, and listen to your child. Turn off the devices, turn off the TV, look at your child in the eyes, because they need you. You know, and learn what's important. When your ex is complaining about the shoes that your child is wearing, or they went to bed too late, or if you feel that your child is eating too much candy or watching too much TV, how important is it really? Is your kid going to be okay, or is that a cross that they'll have to bear? So I think choosing the things that you communicate with your ex about is healthy, because there are things that, you know, can't control it. I can't control what's going on with my child when she or he is at her other parent's house. And that's difficult. And that's another stage of grief that we go through, is this feeling of, oh, my parenting is not what I thought it would be. You know, this is not what it looked like. But it is what it is. We have to get there.
So if you're dealing with these challenges, if you're in a blended family, if you have decided to some parents decide to parent solo, you know, to be solo parents. So we're talking about solo parents and solo parenting. There's a clip of blended family challenges that we like to show, moms discussing some of these challenges, and then we will be back and continue our conversation with expert and founder, CEO, editor-in-chief JulyHerman of Solo Parent magazine. Stay with us.
Well, I'm really honored, and I'm excited to hear from our panel of mothers today, because they represent a life experience that I've personally not had. And I really admire each of them, because I know them all, and they're fabulous moms. And they have the experience of a blended family. They've each been previously married and had children with a former spouse, and now they're remarried, and some of them have children with their current spouse. And you start looking at this, this particular experience of life, and I'm kind of blown away by the variables involved that create very specific challenges. So it's a given that it's going to have challenges. I don't think it's something you can, well, if we just do things a certain way, we'll never have a challenge. It's just built into the experience, depending on what your variable is, you know, in the mix. And so what are some of the challenges that you've faced that, you know, and that's a lot of our blogs, you know, we want to help other people because they're facing those same challenges. And so that you can give some insight to some of the challenges of this experience in life that you are currently having, and they don't ever go away.
No, they don't.
And they evolve into new ones.
They evolve, exactly. Yeah. One thing I think.
This is Jen.
Yes.
And
hi.
give me real quick your family makeup so we.
Okay, so
people can-
we have 8 children total, and I came into the marriage with 4. He came in with 2, and we've had 2 together.
And what's the span of age?
18 down to 3.
So you've got it covered. I mean, you're from
Yeah.
every age group
every
there.
age group is covered, so we're spread pretty thin most of the time. But I think one of the biggest challenges when we got into this, and now that I understand my nature, it makes so much more sense, but I just wanted to get everybody together and everything was going to be perfect and everybody was going to get along really, really well, and everybody was going to, you know, I was going to be
Like,
the super
let's make this
stepmom.
work.
Oh yeah, now. And everybody was going to love, you know, the new stepdad, and everything was just going to, everybody was going to mesh, and you know, everything was going to be perfect. And yeah, I pushed and pushed and pushed, and I understand now, you know, exactly what was going on. But at the time, I was so happy. I was so happy in this new marriage, and I wanted all of my kids to be so happy. I wanted all of his kids to be so happy. I just wanted all this happiness, and I pushed and pushed and pushed. So.
And now how have you made some
Tweaks.
tweaks? You notice you're pushing.
Yeah, I've tweaked my approach quite a bit. Definitely, and understanding all of the children's types has made a huge difference, because it makes so much sense now as to why certain kids and dads don't get along as well, or why I rub somebody the wrong way, or it makes so much more sense now, and it makes things a lot smoother and easier. But there are always challenges. There's always a different house that runs things differently than our house runs, and we have a dad and we have another mom involved, and we have
How do you help
dynamic.
the children that when you have kids coming together? And I know, Jenny, you have lots of teenagers. Mostly, isn't your group all of the kids?
Yeah, the youngest is 12 and a half, so almost 13. So, and then the
it's
oldest
all
is 22.
teenagers.
Yep, all teenagers.
Which is a real interesting phase anyway, because they're really kind of wanting autonomy, and then whether they like people or not is a lot more defined as teens.
Yeah.
How do you help them all?
I think
Maybe they don't have to be best friends, but even just be cooperative. Maybe you lower your standard.
Right, and that's one of the things
They're
that,
not being mean to each other. It's good. No.
That's one of the things that we have talked about, is that, you know, because we've been married 7 years and we have 7 children together. I have 4 and my husband has 3, so it ranges from, you know, 12 to 22. The oldest is out of the house. But you know, when they were younger, we've got 2 kids that are close in age. We've got the 13-year-olds are 3 months apart, and then the 15 and 16 are 9 months apart. So when we first got married, you know, they were friends. They wanted to do stuff together. But as they've gotten older, you know, they don't have to invite each other to their birthday parties. They don't have to do things together.
So that's interesting, because a lot of parents might think, well, that's really important. A birthday, you know, they're your siblings.
Right.
So you're okay if they don't. Then.
And yeah, as they've gotten older, we recognize that, you know, they need to be able to have their own friends. They need to be able to have their own, you know, their own life. Not everything has to be attached. And so,
yeah, because it's kind of like, we're a family now. You have to like each other, and they may not agree with that.
well, yeah, they may not agree with that, and so
Especially if they're type 4s, which all of you have a lot of.
we have a lot of type 4s. Yes.
I got one.
Well, one thing that's been really supportive to us, because in our situation, we don't have any children together.
Yeah.
Both of us, is that when we first got married, we thought, oh, we're going to be this big happy family. We'll do everything together.
Is this a common theme?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The Brady Bunch. It's gonna
Okay, so
work,
right
it's gonna
away
be
you go in
perfect.
with a really high expectation and an ideal of what you want, especially coming out of a disappointing situation, and so you're now hoping for something much better. So sounds like it's really common to have to make an adjustment.
خب دوستان، به برنامه مامتاک توجه میکنین. گروهی از زنان و مادرانی که مشاهده کردین در میز گردی یا در به اصطلاح خانه‌ای، منزلی دور هم جمع شدن و درباره چالش‌های به تنهایی مادر بودن یا به تنهایی به اصطلاح مادری کردن صحبت میکنن، یا اینکه ازدواج مجدد کردن و این بار دو خانواده با هم به اصطلاح جفت و جور شده و مادر اول صحبت میکرد که 8 فرزند داره، 4 فرزند از ازدواج قبل، 2 فرزند شوهر ایشون داشتن و 2 فرزند جدید. بنابراین به اصطلاح مادری و پدری کردن برای این خانواده 10 نفره با 8 فرزند به چه صورت هستش و توضیح میداد که در ابتدا خیلی ایدئالیست بوده و فکر میکرده که همه چی بسیار خوب و ایدئال پیش میره و با شادی و خوشحالی و بعد به این نتیجه میرسه که این توجه روی کمالگرایی و پرفکشنیزم به اصطلاح بی‌معنا هستش و این کمالگرایی رو میذاره کنار، میذاره کنار به قول معروف و توجهش رو میذاره روی اینکه چگونه این بچه ها رو کمک بکنه که با هم رابطه سالمتری داشته باشن، با هم خانواده سالمتر باشن و به قول معروف responsive parenting. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. ولی کاری که ما میتونیم بکنیم اینه که در کنار بچه هامون conscious باشیم، conscious parenting، mindfulness و PeaceLearning رو در عمل بیاریم و ببینیم که هر بچه‌ای، هر کودکی، هر نوجوانی نیازش چه هست، در چه به اصطلاح موقعیتی متناسب با سنش قرار گرفته، ages and stages of development to be aware و این needs و نیازها رو برای خانوادهمون مهیا بسازیم. به قول معروف regulating و managing a family of 10. Wow.
Can you imagine?
I cannot imagine.
Oh,
I have 3 and we're a family of 5, so half the size, and it's a challenge and it's very hard work every day.
Yes.
So I can't imagine.
Well, and then
doubling
once,
that.
Yeah, and once you have a house full of teenagers who have a lot of needs also, or oh man.
Wow.
I think that one of the things that these parents are able to do who have blended families or bigger families is that the idea of perfection, you know, I think sometimes good enough is good enough.
Good enough is
Sometimes
good enough. I like
good
that.
enough is good enough. We can take the pressure off ourselves to be perfect parents. We can take the pressure off our kids to be perfect kids. Let them be kids.
And this obsession over happiness, you know, this obsession we have in our society, I think we're obsessed with happiness.
Yes.
And really, I think, why don't we take a break from happiness and focus on peace for a moment?
Yes.
Why don't we take a break from happiness and this obsession with happiness and focus on what it means to be successful? Like, what is success? How do we define success in our family? I think that's a good place to start.
It's a very good place to start. I think having open communication, loving communication, letting everybody be who they are.
Yeah.
And not trying to fit them into molds where they don't belong. Health is very important, and that's also, as you were saying before, Dr. Nelly, mental health, emotional health, but also physical health, getting enough exercise, getting outside, cooking meals together and actually sitting down and eating together the way that used to, you know, happen. And not expecting your children to tell you everything about their day, but coming into it with a conversational point of view. So they're part of the family, that it's not the adult and the kids. And I think the other side of the coin is that single parents, when we get back to that conversation, single parents tend to overcompensate in certain ways, sometimes in the physical compensation of buying things for their kids or saying yes when normally they would say no. Kids need structure.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've learned as a Montessori teacher, as someone who has read a lot and edited a lot of articles about parenting, routine is very, very important. So having a predictable schedule, this is how every day looks. And even the weekends, you know, this is the weekend. it's free time, you know, so that you have some unstructured time as well. It's not all structured out. Routine doesn't mean having everything structured. It just means a predictable schedule that kids can rely on. This is when this happens. This is when this happens. Having bedtimes that are manageable. But that's not perfectionism. It's just normalcy. You know, we want a normal feeling home.
And I think as a conscious parent, if you're practicing conscious parenting, اگر شما با فرزندتون اون رابطه تنگاتنگ دل به دل یا دلبستگی سالم رو، دلبستگی امن رو دارین، میدونین که فرزند شما چه تمایل و گرایش هایی و چه خلق و خویی داره. اگر که این آگاهی رو داشته باشین بر اساس خلق و خوش و بر اساس the tendencies, every child is different. من با بچه های خودم هر سه فرزندم یک نوع خلق و خو دارن، یک نوع گرایش ها و تمایل هایی دارن و من به عنوان یک مادر مسئول و شوهرم به عنوان پدر مسئول و کسانی که با این بچه ها سر و کار دارن، معلمین، سرپرستان، میبایست انعطاف پذیری داشته باشیم که بتوانیم بر اساس اون نیازها و بر اساس اون چیزی که اون کودک به خصوص رو به بهترین پتانسیالش میبره خودمون رو جلو ببریم در رابطه با اون فرزند و اینجوری که اگر یک مدل رو the same type of parenting many times does not apply to all children. So when you talk about routines, you know, some kids really need routines and benefit from routines developmentally, interpersonally, neurobiologically, and some kids you want to shift things around a little bit. Give them a little bit of a challenge so that the brain can adjust and be challenged. And so for parents to be conscious of that, attuned to those very fine details.
That's a great point.
Is really a part of peace learning.
Well, and I think that routine is an interesting word. I think that we think of it as drudgery and it's the same thing every day. The point I'm trying to make is that things are predictable.
Yes.
That there will always be dinner every night. Because in some families, sometimes, you know, who knows?
Good point.
And it doesn't have to be dinner all together. It doesn't have to be, you know, but maybe a couple times of the week there's dinner together, you know, that people have dinner together and you have the sense of family and community. And then other times it's, hey, if you want to go be with your friends and you guys can eat your pizza over there, that's a little different than, you know, this. So structure is one thing. Routine fits within that, and I understand exactly what you're saying.
That's a great point. So what I see with families is when they focus on the primary need of safety. So you're bringing up a very good point. The need of safety, نیاز امنیت برای کودکان اولین نیازه. یکی از ابتدایی ترین نیازها هستش. برای همین موقعی که ما در دوره طلاق هستیم یا در دوره ازدواج دوباره هستیم یا در دوره به اصطلاح این ترانزیشن ها هستیم، میبایست توجه بکنیم که اون نیاز امنیت و نیاز اولیه سیفتی برای بچه هامون اون رو مهیا بسازیم. بنابراین predictability و اینکه کودک بدونه که غذاش همیشه اونجا خواهد بود، جای امنش همیشه اونجا خواهد بود، اون کارا و اون روتینا و کارهایی که انجام میده اونجا خواهد بود. بنابراین اون خیالش رو راحت میکنه. تغییرات و تحولات بسیار در این دوران بحرانی برای کودکان و نوجوانان خوب نیست و میتونه اونها رو دچار معضلات بکنه. It's a very good point, and to stay focused on those basic needs and how we can help children navigate through these transitional periods.
I wanted to bring up a book that I recently reviewed for Common Sense Media, and the reason I wanted to bring this book up, it's called Weekends with Max and his dad, is that it talks a little bit about routine and coming to a new situation when dad has moved out of the home and he's in his own apartment and there's a little boy, he's 9 years old in this book, and what it's like to walk into an apartment that has some of grandma's furniture in it and some rooms don't have anything, but when dad opens up the door to this little boy's room, it's entirely decorated. And dad has made choices that the little boy doesn't really agree with. You know, there's a football helmet lamp that the boy doesn't like, but he doesn't want to disappoint his father by saying that. And so there are books out there where this struggle of adjusting to a new situation is internalized in the characters' situation, the way that they think. And you can see in this book in particular, this is by Linda Urban, and it just came out in April, and you can find it in bookstores and on Amazon, and it's on audiobook as well. But it's nice to have books that you can read with your, especially if you have young children, that show that this happens, that there are transitions into different life situations. And guess what? It's rough, but everything's going to be okay. And that's the end goal. We want our children to know that, as you're talking about safety, they will be safe, they will be okay. And just checking in with them all the time. You know, just noticing the changes, listening to them. And I can't stress enough how important listening is. Because we have opinions, we have ideas. I catch myself all the time giving my opinions and my ideas and my thoughts about how this should be or that should be. But my child needs to have a space where she can just be safe expressing herself. And
now, is this a book that you would read with your child? Is it written for?
Yes, this is a book for 6 to 9-year-old children.
6 to 9-year-old children. Okay.
And this is an example of something that's on the market right now, you know, 2016, springtime, that really integrates, and I felt that it was an excellent example of something that you can read to your child, and it doesn't beat, you know, the point over and over again. A kid's not going to feel intimidated or feel like they have to talk about it. But it can open things up so that there can be a discussion about the feelings that a child is having, because children will stuff their feelings because they don't want to disappoint mommy, they don't want to disappoint daddy, and they don't want to be in the middle. And so sometimes we're not getting all of the information that they need to express. So if you can have a television show or a movie, and Common Sense Media has a lot of different resources in terms of how to talk to your kids about certain things, and movies and TV shows that can help create a dialogue.
Yeah, Common Sense Media, که JulyHerman با Common Sense Media, you're on the board and you're involved.
No, actually I've been writing since the release of the website 2004. So I've been a television review editor, a DVD review editor, and I'm a book review editor for the online magazine. It's a great resource.
برای شما مادر و پدرانی که میخواین خیلی از اوقات بدونین که این فیلمی که هستش یا این ویدیو گیمی که هست و یا این کتابی که هست، این میدیا تولزایی که در مارکت هستش، آیا متناسب سن، مناسب برای کودکانتون، برای نوجوانانتون هست؟ این Common Sense Media به اصطلاح یه ارگانیزیشنی هستش که آمده و در به اصطلاح از طریق تحقیقات، از طریق experts reviews ریتینگ میده. یعنی میاد یه فیلمی رو ریتینگ خودش رو میده و میگه که به نظر این گروه که روانشناس دارن، educator دارن، به اصطلاح media experts دارن. I know Yalda, Yulis, she's one of the experts. So lots of researchers, scientists, psychologists, educators. اینا یه گروه خیلی خیلی سالد و خوبی هستن که شما رو راهنمایی میکنن برای انتخاب میدیا برای کودکان و نوجوانانتون. commonsensemedia.org. و اگر که بتونین برین تشریف بیارین، ممبر بشین، اپشون خیلی یوزر فرندلی هستش، اپشو میتونین رو تلفنتون رو بذارین و خیلی سریع چک بکنین فیلمی که میخواین انتخاب بکنین، سینما یا ویدیو گیمی که میخواین کودکتون بازی کنه، یا کتابایی که به اصطلاح برای شما ریویو میکنن. خانم جولی برای شما این کتاب Weekend with Max and his dad از توصیه‌های ایشون هستش و حتما به این سایت برین و این رو اگر مادر و پدری هستین که همیشه سوال دارین چه میدیایی خوب هستش و نه، از Common Sense Media استفاده کنین. commonsensemedia.org. Perhaps we can produce another show on Common Sense Media and you can guide us through it, and we can talk about how to use this site and the app. The app is amazing.
Resource, and especially because kids will be involved in media.
Yes.
And video games, as I heard you mention, television, and you want to know what's appropriate for your kids, especially if they are going through an emotional time and they're very sensitive about something. You can look on Common Sense Media to see what kind of positive messages there are, what kind of role models there are, how much violence there is. Children who are going through transitions might be more sensitive to violence because they don't feel safe. So on Common Sense Media, you can quickly look up on the app or look on the website and see, okay, is this going to be safe for my child when we're in the movie theater, you know, and is my child going to be cool with that? If you have teenagers who are off and they're going to see a movie or they're watching TV shows, you don't need to watch it with them. You can look on the site and have the information and knowing your kids, whether that's okay for them or not. The idea is not to keep it away from your children. The idea is to know your children. And
I love how the reviews reflect also the kids' responses.
Correct.
So the parents are also from their view, rating, and I love that. So you're right. You don't have to risk and take a risk. You can learn from other moms and other families and recommendations and be a little more cautious when you want to.
Right, and we also make sure to give tips about things that families can talk about.
Yeah.
So the idea is to have conversation. And I think that's an overreaching theme today, is make sure that we're having conversations with our children about where they are in their family, where they are in their lives, listening to them, what they're involved in, what they're exposed to. Because when we have conversation and we are able to communicate and listen to them, they feel connected to us and we're connected to them.
Yes.
And that's something that will last all of our lifetime.
And that's the basis of peace learning, is to be compassionate and to be a good listener. So absolutely spot on. We have another clip to show, this one on 2 top challenges that single parents, solo parents face: money and time. So let's take a look and we'll talk about it when we get back.
Why do you think that it's your responsibility to protect your son from the truth of his life? What are you making up?
Oh, she just said my favorite thing.
What?
I didn't think of it that way.
Okay, that's a bing bing,
Bing,
bong
bing.
bong,
Bing,
aha.
bing. Aha, yeah.
Something.
Bing,
something
bing,
happened.
aha, yes, yes.
Stand up, my beloved. So what are you making up about that?
He's 6, so I don't know where I draw the line of, do I tell him what's really going on?
Well, what is the truth?
Just that he doesn't care enough to make the effort. I make up excuses that he's constantly working, and that's why he doesn't call. It's just...
Did the child's father say?
خب وقت و زمانی که مادر و پدران چه با طلاق روبرو هستن، چه در خانواده های BlendedFamiles، خانواده های مخلوط طی میکنن، یکی از چالش های بزرگ هستش که متاسفانه در این برنامه دیگه وقتی برامون نمونده که این رو باز بکنیم. از خانم جولی درخواست میکنم. I'm gonna invite you to have another show where we talk about money and time.
I would love that.
2 hot topics that families struggle with. And oftentimes I notice for those families, solo parents, who are leading with wallets or money, they're often experiencing a lot of conflict, a lot of heartbreaks. And so I've noticed families do best when they lead with their hearts and they make compassionate choices and stay focused on bonding and quality of bonding and communication, like you said, and having those conversations. And you know, the money is a side conversation that eventually you can integrate and incorporate. So let's talk about it.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being here.
It's been lovely.
It's
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Bye until next week.